China's tech manufacturer Huawei is in big trouble. America's social media overlords at Facebook are in big trouble. And Apple is in trouble for a serious bug in their FaceTime software. The good news is we aren't in trouble. In fact, we're happy to welcome new listeners every day to the tech show that's peppered with the latest news, apps, and gadgets, and features some salty talk. That's right. We are the salt and pepper of podcasting. Yo, push it good.
Ready for your hot fix of tech news with the latest apps, sexy software, and groovy gadgets. You've got it with the bad boys of tech. Take it away, gentlemen.
And thank you, lovely, talented, exotic Barbara, for that kind intro. And welcome to the Bad Boys of Tech. I am Joel Comm, tech nerd forever.
And I am Travis Wright. I don't know that I've been a tech nerd forever. I have been a tech nerd long enough, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, like day 5, after you were born, you got into the techs.
Yeah, I got an iPad immediately. Came out of the womb. 1973 iPad version. It was good.
And our remote correspondent, Mr. Stuart Rogers, will be bringing us a segment from Davos today. Yeah, he was on hand and has the latest news from the crypto world as well as the emerging technology that was revealed there in Switzerland during the World Economic Forum.
And we were there last year, and I have never seen that much snow in one place, at least the size of the snowflakes that were dropping. I mean, it snowed like 6 feet that one night, didn't it?
It snowed quite a bit. All right, gang, let's get into the latest tech news.
Also, we want to thank our sponsor for this week's episode. Our sponsor is CCP Digital. They are a social media advertising company based in Overland Park. It's actually my company, and it's a great company. We do a lot of different stuff with Facebook ads, Instagram ads, social media, all types of social media, YouTube, Google ads as well, YouTube, all kinds of good stuff. So if you need strategy around advertising, B2B, we do some B2C, mostly B2B. We would love to have a conversation with you. ccp.digital.
Mr. Travis Wright, both yourself and myself have been KOLs for Huawei. I always have a hard time pronouncing it. The Chinese tech giant. Did I pronounce it right? Huawei?
You did. Huawei. Yeah, what's funny is my mom, she was always like, who are we?
Yeah, because it's spelled Huawei. So it looks like Huawei.
Yeah, I always thought that would be a great advertising campaign for them, like showing people the name and they would go, who are we? We're Huawei. Who are we? Huawei. But yeah, they've had some challenges recently. Huawei's CFO, Meng Wanzhou, who is actually the daughter of the founder, Ren Zhengfei, she got arrested in Canada. And there's some conversations going on around the U.S. Department of Justice actually indicting Huawei and trying to extraditing her from Canada over to the U.S.
Yeah, the indictment is related to 10 federal crimes related to Huawei employees attempting to steal secrets from competitor T-Mobile. So according to this article in Gizmodo, this includes the company instructing employees to violate non-disclosure agreements, obstruction of justice charges, and even attempting to steal physical components from a robot T-Mobile uses to test phone durability. Yikes. And that's just part of the problem. There's more.
Well, there's been a lot of speculation from the U.S. government saying that the Huawei ecosystem is not safe and that the Chinese are spying on us with that. I've always been of the thought process of, well, you know what? It's because, U.S. intelligence apparatus can't actually spy through their hardware. And so I thought it was like a sort of the new Cold War kind of a thing, because there's never been evidence that's popped up that I've seen that had happened. And I think it was like in 2016 was when I started being a KOL for Huawei. That's a key opinion leader. Basically, what that means is they send us their new phone when it comes out. We get to check it out, and they want us to do, chat out about it on social media and stuff. And I think I went on a couple of trips to different parts of the world where they were having events. Never actually went to China, their headquarters. I did go to Shanghai for an event that they had, but never been to their headquarters, didn't check all that out. But I've always been a fan. I know the phones are smoking fast and they're beautiful. They take amazing photos, but that's not good if they're actually, doing some spying or stealing, competitors, competitive information.
Well, apparently this is, nothing new. There was a piece that was written way back in 2000 from the Far Eastern Economic Review that said, and I quote, not only is Huawei financially and politically supported by the Chinese government, but also its origins as a military-backed company continue to pay dividends, including a contract to maintain the Chinese military's telecoms backbone. So, there's no surprises here, and they're definitely in trouble. But in the meantime, they're still rolling out, their devices. The latest phone looks to be super cool. But, they're recommending maybe if you're with Google or something that you don't travel to China anytime too soon.
Yeah, and the chairman, they call him the CEO in this article on Gizmodo. He is not the CEO. They actually have 3 rotating CEOs, which is one of the coolest things I've ever seen within a corporate company. They have one guy is the CEO of like HR, one is the CEO of the sort of the phone division, and one is the CEO or is essentially the head of their innovation labs. And then they rotate I think it's every 6 months they rotate as CEO. And so they share the responsibilities, which I've never seen anyone else do. And one thing about Huawei that I've noticed, which is really interesting to me, is that they don't have like American companies where they're always dependent upon that next quarter. They're just focused on that next quarter, the numbers of the next quarter. Huawei has a 400-year plan, right? They have a 20-year plan and a 400-year plan. Now, you think, wow, 400 years, that's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? Well, China's like several thousand years old, and so that's not out of the realm of imagination for them. In America, we're only 200 and some odd years old, 240-ish, and for them to say we're planning on being here 400 years from now, so that's a really powerful thing when they're visualizing and thinking about that far in the future, Mr. Joel Cohen.
Yeah, I'm 54 and I barely have a 1-year plan. Not that I'm planning on not being around, for the long haul. It's just, what are we going to do next? I know. Let's do a podcast.
Yeah, the short haul.
So yeah, Huawei is in trouble. It'll be interesting to watch this pan out. Meanwhile, other tech giants in trouble. You may or may not have heard about the FaceTime bug. This is a pretty significant thing. There's a story on 9to5mac.com that goes a little more in depth, but the essence of the bug is that you could call anybody with using FaceTime and you could hear the audio from their phone's mic before the person is picked up or before they say, I'm not picking up. This is like, so basically you could call somebody using FaceTime, and whether or not they pick up, you could be listening in to what's happening before they say hello.
That is a challenge there, because imagine you FaceTiming me and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to talk to that Joel Comm right now. Screw that guy. Decline. And you heard it all.
or right before you pick up, you're like, woo, it's a good thing I hadn't picked up to tell them that I just robbed that bank,
Right. Maybe you're having sexy time in the bedroom and somebody's FaceTiming you and they can hear that. That'd be good.
So
there's all kinds of embarrassing things that can happen.
It's recommended.
Great job, Apple.
That you shut off FaceTime on your devices. But as of today being the 1st of February, as this recording is happening, although the episode will be a few days later, Apple has said, we're sorry. We're so sorry. We're fixing it, and we'll roll out an update next week. Sorry.
The actual quote from Tim Cook was, whoops, I'm sorry.
I mean, Apple, is with the iPhone, they're saying privacy is tantamount and security, is super important. And turns out all you had to do, like the way this actually works, here's how you actually do it. You start, your FaceTime video call with a contact you already have. And while the phone is ringing, you swipe up from the bottom and you tap on add person. And then you put your own phone number in the add person field. And what will happen is you'll start a group FaceTime call, and it'll include your audio and the audio of the person you called, even if they have not picked up yet. And people tested it, and it works. Like, who goes out of their way to do that? Here, let's try this. I'm going to add myself to a call to see if I can hear the other person.
Well, hackers going to hack. But what I found is really interesting about this, Joel, is that Apple has this, this is kind of a smack on the face to Apple and security and privacy. And so what do? Well, they immediately go out and smack down Facebook and Google.
Right.
Yeah, so Apple actually went ahead and yanked Facebook and Google's apps from the App Store this week. They've disabled their internal applications after privacy violations were revealed, and then all these Google and Facebook employees were not able to do their internal key operations, right? And so apparently what was happening was Facebook was utilizing their enterprise certificate to do other stuff that apparently Apple was frowning upon. They were utilizing, and I'm not sure exactly what all that they were doing, but there was some stuff that they were using their certificate for. And so what's happening is so Facebook has this VPN called Onavo, and Onavo, and they were Onavo, and they were allowing people to install this. And then what they were doing is they were actually paying them. They were paying people who installed this for their data. Right. So there's a bunch of different stories in our show notes. And apparently, Apple was like, you can't be doing this. This is a violation of privacy. And they shut them off. Now, I'm not sure exactly. What did Google do?
So basically, Google did something similar. They used the same idea so that regular people would install apps to get paid for market research. So now it basically tapped their phones in a different way so they could monitor what people were doing on their phones with a lot more detail.
Yeah. Would you like Facebook to access your phone for $20? And a lot of people were 13-year-olds and 20-year-olds like, yeah, I could use $20 off my phone bill or whatever, right? And so they were doing this research. That's what it was. And basically what happened was Apple said, nope. We're going to go ahead and shut down all of your internal business operation apps. And they did. And then what happened was they've actually turned them back on. They're making nice with them now. I think they just popped. They turned back on today. But that was kind of a slap on the wrist. Could you imagine, though, what they technically could have done? Because they violated this privacy and this certificate. They could have literally yanked Facebook app down. They could have taken down Instagram. They could have taken them all down if they wanted to.
That's so much centralized power. Boy, this is just another reason that we need blockchain and decentralization. These tech giants, look, I'm not a big fan of regulation, that, but we're definitely entering into monopoly area here, and we do have laws against that, at least here in the United States, America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because these are platforms. These are, Facebook is essentially the town hall for today, right? Everybody goes there for the most part and talks with their friends and having communication. And if someone deplatforms you or just eliminates you from that platform, you're done. You're like, you don't exist anymore, and you can't participate in those conversations unless you set up a brand new account. Now, one way that YouTube gets away with that, YouTube is a platform that people upload their videos to, but what they've done is they've classified themselves as a media company. So since they're a media company, that gives them curation rights in theory. So that's why they're able to go through and censor and deplatform people that they don't approve of. And that's a problem. And I really don't like the direction the technology is going in that way, where if they don't like what you have to say, they're just going to get rid of your videos. Get rid of your conversations, get rid of your tweets, get rid of your Facebook page. That's dangerous.
Depersoned, very Orwellian. But meanwhile, some of the platforms continue to grow. Instagram, which of course is owned by Facebook, has 1 billion users, and now their Instagram Stories feature is used by 500 million every single day. 2 million advertisers are buying story ads across Facebook's properties. This is huge. And so even with all the blows Facebook is taking, their earnings report still came back positive.
Mm-hmm. And Instagram stories came from Snapchat essentially, right? They liked what Snapchat was doing with their ephemeral stories where you'd do your little video there and then boof, it's gone at the end of the day. So Facebook adopted it. Instagram adopted it. Now Instagram's up to 500 million users. And I'm at the point where I really don't even use Snapchat that much anymore because I can do Instagram stories, attach it directly to my Facebook story, and it shows up on both places. And so I get the audience from my Instagram and my Facebook audience is seeing it at the same time. So Snapchat is not something I ever even care about, although I will go there sometimes just to check out their silly filters and then make a funny video and then download that so I can upload it on Instagram or Facebook.
Well, here's the thing about Snapchat is back in 2013, I believe, Mark Zuckerberg offered Evan Spiegel, the CEO of Snapchat, $3 billion to buy it. And Spiegel said no. And so Zuckerberg said, okay, well, we'll just build our own. And your stock price will go. Of course, Snapchat wasn't public at that time, but when they did go public, the stock started trading at $27. Today, it is just under $7. It's about it hit a low of $4.99 just in December, and it's back up a couple dollars now. But wow, if you bought into the IPO for Snapchat, you have not seen an up day yet.
But one thing about Snapchat that I was liking is that, they hired the head of Oakley's, glasses division or whatever. And it seems like over time, they're going to make more and more of those sort of spectacle type glasses. But in my mind is don't make them just specifically for Snapchat because people want to do that kind of stuff on Instagram and on Facebook. And maybe they want to do it for YouTube videos as well. Let them. And maybe they morph into sort of this video hardware glasses company, or at least have a big division, because if they make them and they look stylish, and I don't think their first version was completely stylish, they're getting better looking. And, maybe having that head of Oakley over there to make those glasses look more spiffy. But if they make them cross-platform, that's where they would have a bigger seller because less and less people are strictly Snapchat now. And if they try to keep it only on that platform, that's going to be detrimental to their overall growth. I think they should probably maybe open that up.
I was pretty bullish on Snapchat a couple of years ago and was using it to create a lot of stories. Of course, that was before we had Instagram stories, and they pioneered, the face filters and lenses, and the kids really liked it. And then as I and some others started using it, more of our peers did, but I was just on there the other day and very few of those peers that were on there are still there. The kids still like it. And I do agree that spectacles could be something. I've recommended now for several years that Snapchat integrates a live feature where people can, do longer form live video on there. But on this, back to Instagram for a moment, there's been rumors out there about Facebook merging the the functionality of messaging between Messenger, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And so who knows, maybe the three of them are going to start working cross-platform with each other. And Zuckerberg says it could take time and it might happen in 2020. Facebook's got 2.7 billion monthly users across Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp. 2.7. There's 7.5 billion people in the world. And how many of those don't even have access, to this yet?
It's almost like everyone that does have a phone, for the most part, is connected on one of those apps. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean,
except my brother, he deleted his Facebook this last week. He told me he's done. He's
done with his Facebook, but does he have an Instagram?
He does not. He doesn't have WhatsApp either. He
does not have a WhatsApp.
He says social media is the scourge of our existence, and I'm starting to think that to some degree he might be right.
Well, he's probably been listening to some of our conversations.
That's always been his take, at least here on Earth. But meanwhile, talk about a story that'll make us feel really small, Mr. Travis Wright. Found this one on Yahoo. The headline is "Stunning New Map of the Milky Way Shows 800 Million Stars, Galaxies, and Near-Earth Asteroids." There's a photo here of this planet. But when you zoom in on it, you'll see that this is actually a cluster that they are mapping out of. Like, it's mind-blowing. I don't even know how to put this into words, even though the article does.
Mm-hmm. You know, what's weird to me is like this is the new map of the cosmos, and they said it's compiled from 4 years of observations by the Pan-STARRS Observatory in Maui. And so they're mapping this out. And so within this mosaic image, there's the Milky Way. That's kind of the big red smear in the middle of that. But it's actually, that goes all the way around that. So it's really huge. That's what's crazy to think about, you know, in our galaxy or in our Milky Way, 800 million stars in ours. And we have one star, and it's the one that we rotate around 365 days a year. That's one star. And in the Milky Way, there are 800 million stars. And guess what? You know how many other Milky Way clusters there are within the universe? You know, billions. And so when you think about how big the universe is, that's one thing that sometimes, you know, like I'll sit down and I'll take a couple puffs of the wondrous wampum and puff, and then I'll be like, whoa, you know what? Like, here we are. We think our problems are so big. And then you think about how huge the universe actually is and how infinitesimally small we actually are, and actually how small our sun is, which is ginormous, but it's very, very small compared to it all. And our planet, it's like, you know what? We are so lucky to even be in existence. If we didn't have Jupiter out there, you know, protecting us from those big asteroids and the comets and the big, you know, the space trash that comes in that could annihilate us at any time, you know, we're so blessed to even be living this human experience, right? And so, you know, it really, really opens you up to gratitude and thinking, wow, things are really big. We're really small. These problems we have aren't that big. We can get over it. Wow, how amazing is this all that we get to live here, third rock from the sun. It's crazy.
And it makes you think, why would anybody waste a single moment of their lives keeping up with the Kardashians?
Mm-hmm.
Not even. But from deeply existential to why in the world are we even reporting on this? Because it's funny. I came across this story on Mashable, Mr. Travis Wright. And there's this dude, he's a Twitch streamer. He goes by Jesse D Streams. And apparently he fell asleep while he was streaming on Twitch for 3 hours. And while he was sleeping, the audience built. And he woke up 3 hours later and he discovered that there was 200 people that were watching him and that were chatting and donating to him.
While he was snoozing, huh? Oh, that's hilarious.
It's priceless.
The video has over 3 million views now of him just snoozing.
It's priceless because people were chatting, you know, while he was sleeping. They had a little party while he was asleep, and then you see him wake up. And you have to watch this video. It's linked in the show notes and at badboysoftech.com. And he as he wakes up, you can kind of see him slowly, you know, getting conscious and looking at the screen, and then this smile comes across his face when he realizes how many people are watching him and he sees donations coming in.
Any word on how many donations he got while he was snoozing?
I don't have that data, but I think it's pretty darn funny and really ironic after I talked about, you know, how it'd be ridiculous to keep up with the Kardashians, but we're going to watch this sleeping guy stream.
You can watch the end of it right there, and he's like all smiling and chuckling here. He's just like, what? He was full on out, too. He was snoozing. That's great.
Yay, Twitch. So what's happening in the app world?
We did talk a little bit about apps, right? So Facebook, Google, those are apps technically, but it's also the tech industry. How can you not have the tech industry without those? So they're kind of in both worlds. So, but this is interesting to me is that Dropbox has acquired HelloSign for $230 million. And if you're familiar with HelloSign, basically that's going to give them a lot of workflow and the capability to do those e-signatures, which I think was something that they were definitely missing. You know how many times you got to go back and forth and you're like, hey, I need this document. And they're like, oh, now I got to print it out. Now I got to sign it. And then I got to scan it. And then I got to email it to you. Mm-hmm. Well, it's so handy whenever you have tools like HelloSign or DocuSign or some of those tools. And so Dropbox has picked that up for 230 millions.
Yeah, Dropbox does a lot of acquisitions, and they're kind of like, I don't want to say sleeping giant because they're already a giant and quite awake, but I don't think people realize just how big Dropbox is.
Huge. It's totally huge.
They're huge. Now, what's the story you dropped in here about TikTok? What's the TikTok is like? That's like the Musical.ly thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So TikTok and Musical.ly, I guess they merged, right? So TikTok I think it was out of China. I'm not exactly sure where it came from because I was like, where'd Musical.ly go? Oh, it's still there. It's TikTok. And you're like, oh, okay. My daughter loves Musical.ly. She was on it all the time, still does it. And now TikTok is becoming more and more popular. So it originally came from Beijing's company called ByteDance, BYTE Dance, and they created TikTok, and I guess they merged with Musical.ly. And in December, it received a 275% increase in users from a year before, and so they're really starting to grow. It's kind of a lip syncing app, right, Mr. Joe Com? Kind of like an online karaoke experience where it's kind of like Vine a little bit, but not. But it gives you the ability to kind of do some standard lip syncing, or you can speed it up and do memes, and there's other sound clips, and there's a lot of funny stuff going on that. I've not used it all that much, but I mean, it's one of those things that the Gen Z seems to really love.
I think the thing about it is that you can edit the videos really easily, because with Vine, you'd have these short videos and you'd have to be really creative to stop, start to, edit something together. But TikTok has got editing involved. In fact, I just downloaded it because I'm hip, I'm cool, I'm down with it, yo, and I'm gonna try it out and see what it does. Here's what's really interesting is the numbers for 2018. It was the number one App Store download. Okay, for iOS, it was number 4 for Google Play, number 4 overall downloads. But in the Apple, that puts it ahead of YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger, Facebook, Google Maps, Netflix, Gmail, and Snapchat. That's pretty darn big.
Yeah. So what happened was, it looks like the Beijing company ByteDance actually acquired Musical.ly in November of 2017 for around $800 million. And then they finally were able to merge the two apps' user base in this past August. And so that's what's interesting is that it's been growing and growing. So they took the Chinese version of it, mixed it with the Musical.ly version of it, and said, let's have one of these. TikTok's not a bad name. I don't mind that. Musical.ly was a great name too. But there it is. I wonder how many users they have overall. It looks like they have a ton. If they were the number one in 2019, that's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm going to have to check that out and report back to y'all with my findings. Let's talk about some gadgets. Let's talk about some gear. Let's talk about some super nerdy stuff. Have you seen yet, Mr. Travis Wright, the DJI Osmo camera?
Yeah. So you actually connect your smartphone to it, and it's a gimbal. That's the one I've seen. When you connect to it, it becomes a gimbal and it moves around, flows. I guess they have a new version, the DJI Osmo Pocket.
Right. And I saw one of these at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. I actually didn't see them on display at DJI because I didn't look at the drone booth to even know they had it. But a woman was walking around with it. I'm like, oh, is that the new DJI Osmo? And she said, yeah, you're holding it in your hand. The camera's up on top. And what's cool about it and why it's DJI is this is the same technology that they put on their drones that kind of makes it so the camera, hovers effortlessly. So it's smooth, right? It's an action camcorder, but it fits in your hand and it's boss. It's got a gimbal on it. It's $350. So for image stabilization, it's pretty killer.
Yeah. I have one of those, the DJI Mavics, the drones, and I got it in, I think I got it in March of 2017. And I really actually, you're looking back at it, the $1,500 or whatever I paid for the whole thing. I wish I had actually bought Ethereum then at like $20 or whatever it was. Would have been a much better deal. But what happened to my drone was I used it sparingly. I would take it with me on all these trips and I'd get this amazing footage. And then all of a sudden, I was charging up all the batteries, I charged it up, and then I put one of the batteries in, and then I was updating the operating system, because you have to update that thing periodically, right? This is pretty regular. And it just like killed the battery and screwed up the drone. Like something weird happened, and it was just like malfunction, and I've not been able to actually get it right since then. Tried it multiple times. It's just like some weird operating system glitch that happened, and I was doing it all correctly, downloaded it all, ran through the process, just something glitched out, and not been able to fly the drone since, which is sad.
Oh, that is sad. Well, check out this little Osmo. I've thought about getting one. I don't do a lot of action video, so I tend to be like, I'm gonna go buy this because it's cool, and then I don't use it, and so I didn't want to do that. But for those of you that want some smooth gimbal like video, check that out.
Yeah, I want to actually throw this in there too, is that I saw a really cool Kickstarter not long ago called Pivo, Pivo, where basically you stick your phone in it and then it follows you around. So if you're like moving around and you're walking, you can probably hear my mic, I'm moving around. But so then it follows you, sort of like the new Facebook portal cameras do, where they actually, if you're moving around, it's going to follow you. It sees where your face is and just sort of locks on. And that was a Kickstarter that I saw that came out recently. I don't believe it's out yet, but I believe the Kickstarter maybe finalized and finished, but it looked like a pretty interesting thing because you know what, that's one thing is like, I don't want to sit here. If I'm holding my phone, I don't want to hold my phone the whole time. Your arm gets tired. I'd like to be able to sit it down, but then the phone doesn't follow you around if you move around. So Pivo does.
Super cool. You also got a new gadget that you've been really excited about. It's an air purification system called Molecule with a K. Tell us about it.
I saw this. I've kept seeing this thing over and over again, different ads on different places, and then I kept watching the videos of it, and I kept watching people's reviews of it just to kind of see. And basically, the air filters that we have in our homes, the HEPA filters, that's technology from like the 1940s, right? And so what it does is it has all these different strands and these strings inside these filters designed to catch those pollutants as they come through, and those pollutants that fly through your house, which is like dead skin and dust and other different things that are just sort of flying around. When you have your air conditioning on or your heater on, it's going to go through and the air is going to suck through that air. And then you need to filter that air. And, every month you pull out the filter and it's all disgusting, right? It's got all this dirt in it. Well, what this does is Molecule actually sucks that air into the purifier, and it actually kills and neutralizes any pollutants that are in there. So the air quality is amazing. Now, especially in the wintertime, right? People are stuck inside the house. If the polar vortex just happened and now it's like so cold. Well, this right here, a lot of people get sick in the wintertime because the windows are closed and all this other stuff's going on. But this right here, Molecule comes in and destroys all of those pollutants, and the air is so fresh. Like if you have that sitting in your room for a day, and then you'll notice a significant difference in the crispness of the air that you breathe.
The crispness of the air? The Christmas?
The crisp.
Oh, okay. I was going to say it's a long way till Christmas.
It's a Christmas in the air. It sings jingle bells to you.
Yeah, very cool. Molecule.com is where you find it. Here's a gadget that I've got sitting on my counter. Picked up a couple of these at the Consumer Electronics Show. Actually, the manufacturer, My Arcade, sent them to me. They are miniature classic arcade games. I would say they stand, maybe 9 inches tall, I believe it is. Actually, let me look at the dimensions here. 7.5 inches tall by 5 wide by 4.5 deep. It's a Pac-Man machine. It's Pac-Man. It's tiny little screen with the tiny little joystick and the start buttons and all the original sound effects. I've also got the Galaga machine, and it's like if you come over to my place and you walk in, you're like, oh, you could just push the on button and you're playing our little arcade machine right there on my bar.
Except Mr. Joe Khan will actually charge you $0.25 to touch it.
You have to put $0.25. They make a bunch of them. They make a Dig Dug. They make a Galaxian, Mappy. Like I said, Galaga. They're coming out with Mrs. Pac-Man and Bubble Bobble. All these classics. Retro is in again. And on Amazon, they're only, it looks like about $30 for them. And the last gadget I want to talk about, Travis, is, when I was at CES, I saw these new televisions, and it's been years since I've purchased a new TV. I want to say probably 5 years or so. So I haven't even looked at pricing on them. And as I was walking through Target yesterday, I saw they have 65-inch 4K TVs for $600 and up now. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I came home, I measured my large TV in my living room. It's only 48 inches. So I'm like, and I went on Amazon yesterday and I shopped around, and I didn't need anything extravagant. It doesn't need to be the latest OLED because, I'll wait a few years till those are $600. But I found an LG 4K 65-inch Ultra HD smart TV for, I want to say shipped was $750. And I've ordered it, and it is going to be shipping and here next week. And I'm pretty excited to play Red Dead Redemption on it.
On a 65 inch, that's pretty big, because actually in my man cave downstairs, as my monitor, I have a 46-inch computer, monitor. So imagine 65 inches. That thing's going to be ginormous, Mr. Joel Comm.
Yeah. Then I'm going to take the 48-inch one, put it in my bedroom, and then I'm going to take the 33-inch one that's in my bedroom and go, I don't know what to do with this. This is old school.
That's tiny.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit.
Now, I've heard that people who have TVs in their bedroom watch more TV and get less sex. Is that true?
I can either.
I don't have a TV in my room. I read that. I'm like, I want to get as much sex as possible. I don't want a TV in here if it's like going to stop having the sex. That's not good.
Our friend Mr. Stuart Rogers has been in Switzerland, in Davos.
Speaking of getting lots of sex.
And he is reporting back to us with the latest news, including the emerging tech and crypto projects that he has encountered there in Switzerland. So, Mr. Stuart Rogers, take it away.
So, I went to Davos. Yes, this is your roving reporter, Stuart Rogers, digital nomad, moving around the world once every 5 days on average. And in the last couple of weeks, I found myself at Davos at the World Economic Forum. I have not been to Davos for some time. It has definitely changed. It used to be all pinstripe suits and talking about, economics, frankly. But now it's turned into a little bit of a tech conference in some ways. In other ways, it did seem a little bit flat. I mean, obviously, regardless of whether you love or hate the man, Donald Trump was not there. And also Davos lacked the likes of Vladimir Putin and many others who have been before. However, it is one of those places where you can be with your friends, talking 1 minute, and the next minute you're in a bar or in a party, and Bono is there, or Prince William, or Princess of Norway, or Sir David Attenborough. There were lots of really remarkable people there as well. At 16 years old, Greta Thunberg really is trying to use the forum to promote climate activism, just as Sir David Attenborough is, of course. But Greta is particularly somebody that everybody was looking up to. At the tender age of 16, that's quite the achievement. But I spent my time, apart from hobnobbing around with various people, looking at what was happening in emerging technology. Now, I did that in a couple of ways. One of the more intriguing solutions that I saw was from the CEO and founder of Point93, Samantha Zirkin. Now, what Samantha has done is use blockchain, although, to be honest, she's using blockchain in the way that it should be used. When you use an app or use a website, people don't go around and announce, hey, my app or website is built using C++ or JavaScript. No, they just give you an app or a website and you use it. You wouldn't know the blockchain is involved here because it's not about tokenization. It's not about an ICO or a token generation event or any of those things that people have become nervous about in the blockchain world. What Point93 does, and what it does really interestingly, is it gives consumers the ability to control what data they give to retailers. And by doing so, there is this quid pro quo. Now, I don't know if you know this, but when you go into a store, if something isn't brand new, it goes through a whole range of discount gates. And typically, the first discount that a retailer will give is something around 40%. Now, what Zirkin has done with Point 93 is given consumers the ability to say, hey, I know this product is X, but I would like to pay Y, and I can wait until this date in order for you to match that price. Now, if you give a ridiculous price, like a $300 jacket, and you say, hey, I'd like this for $2, then the system gives you a chance to give a realistic offer. But typically what Point 93 has found is that consumers want a discount. They want something better than retail, but they don't go as far as 40%. And as a result, what's happening is they're able to allow retailers to provide products that normally they would discount much higher to consumers. Consumers feel like they're getting a good deal, and they get this good deal by giving up not like the usual pieces of information, but things like, what is your favorite color? What are your personal preferences? Things that the retailer can then use not only to reduce the amount of discounts they're giving when they're selling products, because the consumers are not, pushing as hard as 40% off, but also they can use this information to reduce their costs. If they know, for example, what percentage of their consumer base need extra small shirts versus small versus medium versus large, they can avoid that situation where they're left with massive amounts of one size of shirt at the end of season, which basically they would have to liquidate and lose money on. I think it's a really, really damn smart solution. And, I was really quite interested to see the results that Zirkin and her company are getting. Increasing revenues, I believe, if my memory serves me right, by around 25% with their many test companies. They are working with some of the biggest retailers that you've ever heard of. Really is coming to fruition. I think this is a remarkable solution, blockchain or not. I was quite inspired by that. Retail is not a sexy place, but this is a real tangible solution for consumers and retailers. What I also did, the thing that really stuck out for me, was I went to the Emerging Technologies Investment meeting. I went to the one on the 25th of January, and it was at the Dome, which is actually a remarkable location. You're inside a dome. You're looking out through beyond the stage area to the mountains. It really was quite inspiring. And there we heard from a number of different emerging technology solutions in a whole range of categories. You had the likes of Paybook. Gerardo Trevino was there. He's the founder of Paybook. That is a solution that is a financial technology solution that is trying to very much promote transparency. Paybook has a couple of solutions. One of those solutions is really there to promote transparency in terms of your personal finances and track all of your personal, your social, your business transactions all in one place. Keep that data private. So again, it's about data sovereignty, allow you to collaborate with other people, or even just like publish what you're doing to make it accessible. And they have an API for financial technology developers, so that you can integrate your software solutions with financial institutions, government agencies, utility service providers, and so on and so forth. We heard from Boris Bernasconi, founder of the Bernasconi Bureau. Now, this is the one that I didn't really get on board with. What Bernasconi Bureau is doing is they have come up with a way of creating, modular buildings, what they're calling the cities of the future. They're calling it transformable architecture. It is a good idea in one way, in that you have these building units that can be customized on the outside to look different to each other. They can have huge amounts of different variability on the inside, so you can have many different layouts and use them for all sorts of different reasons. The only problem I had with it was that, architecture should be in many, many ways, and the thing that Bernasconi was pushing a lot was the hypercube. Architecture needs to fit in with what is going on in the city, with existing architecture, with inspiring people, different shapes, different materials, different colors. And, I have actually witnessed some of Bernasconi's architecture, the Matrix building at Skolkovo Foundation in Moscow. I've seen that with my own two eyes. It's really a remarkable building. But the hypercube, which was what he was pushing, that appears to just be cubes. And whilst I get the idea of something that is, fairly conformative and can be customized in lots of different ways, for me, and although Hypercube is the first building in the Skolkovo Innovation Center, I've been there myself. To have that as a sort of exoskeleton that you can update and change the interior and exterior, you're still looking at just a lot of cubes. I get that you can put these all together. I get that you can set them up in different ways, but my personal feeling is that we need for buildings and architecture to be much more inspiring than just lots and lots of cubes. We heard from Acronis, Sergey Bulisov, founder and executive officer at Acronis, talked about knowledge being the key to a better future and how we need to protect it. And of course, Acronis are well known for their backup solutions, for their systems that will stop, crypto miners, protect against ransomware, cybersecurity. It is hugely important. Obviously there's nothing amazingly new about those kinds of technologies. We've been protecting ourselves against these things ever since these things started becoming something that we needed to protect ourselves against. But, Acronis are really, at the cutting edge with these technologies. It was interesting to hear what he had to say. What interested me more was Vladimir Novitsky, investor and co-founder at GoWeb, who was talking about computing power for businesses that want to integrate artificial intelligence into their work processes. Of course, artificial intelligence is everywhere right now. And, when we think about AI, it sometimes seems like it is difficult for people to get into. But with GoWeb, they're trying to make AI available to everybody. Any solution that allows us en masse to integrate artificial intelligence into work processes, into our businesses, in an intuitive way, in a simple way, is going to win. There are already obviously lots of ways that you can integrate artificial intelligence into your applications. And, all of the major players, Google and Amazon and others, Alibaba, all have toolkits that allow you to bring artificial intelligence into what you're doing internally. But Novitsky was talking about, integrating artificial intelligence into work processes. And that makes for a compelling proposition, as we move into a world where we're going to have to use artificial intelligence more and more. We also heard from Tatiana Abilik, who is the head of industrial solutions at Kiwi Blockchain Technologies. They talked about an actual implementation case. So they were talking about blockchain technologies for business optimization. And, Kiwi is taking blockchain and distributed ledger technology, and they're implementing it, and they're actually using it. They have real projects. They have, projects in terms of double digits. 6 different industries so far. And they're taking blockchain and actually applying it in the real world. Again, this is not about necessarily like tokenization. They are taking blockchain and actually just applying it just as you would with any other technology for development or for programming applications. That's the way we should be going in my eyes when it comes to blockchain. We should be focusing on real implementation of blockchain technologies, forgetting for now about raising millions upon millions on your token generation event, and really focusing on just using the tech, putting it in place and making it work, because that will increase the efficacy, that will increase people's ability to believe in blockchain, and that may actually have a knock-on effect, ultimately make people really believe in blockchain technology rather than the headline-grabbing scams and vaporware and everything else that people think about when you mention the word blockchain. And then we also heard from Dmitry Sushov, and whilst this is not necessarily any kind of new emerging technology, it was inspiring. They have a pocket-size solar energy unit, which they're distributing in countries where it's needed. In Africa, for example, they're able to charge up and power lights and other things where electricity is really difficult to come by. As well as that, we heard from Maria Rubak, founder and CEO of Pulse, which is spelled PVLSE. I'm making a wild assumption it's pronounced Pulse. But what that system does is it promotes real-life interactions, because it's a real-time meetup app for people based on interests. So it takes interests, activities in your city, allows you to create activities, participate in other people's. Think of it like Meetup as a Meetup competitor in my mind. But they really were quite passionate about taking you from the screen to real-life interaction, which of course is wonderful, and we need more of that in the world. There was an awesome panel as well, talking about bridging the gap between the institutional world and the digital asset universe. But I was much more interested in all of these technologies that were going around. In addition to that, it gave me further opportunity to try out whilst I was in a very cold environment. Some mornings we woke up and it was minus 23 degrees Celsius. Which, of course, some of our readers will not know what that means in Fahrenheit. So that's actually minus 9.4, which is cold enough. And I got a chance to keep playing with the Sirin Fini Android smartphone. And if you would like to, you'll be able to read the full review of that over on gritdaily.com, gritdaily.com. It's, it did remarkably well in the cold. A lot of the smartphones, the batteries were dying pretty quickly, but I got really good usage out of it. And it has that unique feature, which is the cryptocurrency cold storage wallet built into the phone, so that you can keep your crypto assets nice and secure and with you all on that smartphone. We talked about it on the last episode. So now you'll be able to read all about that in my full review on Grit Daily. That was Davos for me. It was a mixture of sleep deprivation, some really interesting technologies, awesome people, occasionally just tripping up over the odd billionaire or celebrity or superstar. And, I will do it again. I may leave it for another year because it was really quite debilitating. But everybody says that about Davos. But there were some real gems in there, emerging technologies aside. Some inspiring people who really are trying to do something to change the world.
Thank you, Mr. Stuart Rogers. Good show, I say.
Davos. Yes, mate. Yeah.
What does that sound like? Austin Powers there for a moment.
Every time I hear Mr. Stuart Rogers, I hear Austin Powers.
Give me a yeah, baby.
Hey, baby, yeah.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Bad Boys of Tech. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. Be sure to subscribe and waiting for some reviews from you. Yes, who are we talking to? Talking to you. Go and review us wherever you find us. We're not sure if we're on all the platforms yet. Sometimes it's a little slow getting there, but we are excited to announce that we have set up social profiles for Bad Boys of Tech on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
That is true. Yeah, you can set up, I believe it's Bad Boys of Tech, no spaces, and you can go and follow us on all those particular channels, which is pretty nice. And then also this week, due to all you guys listening to the show, all you wonderful ladies and fans and men, people out there listening to the show, fans of Bad Boys of Tech, we reached number 49 in iTunes in the technology category.
I know, crazy. And we're just getting started. So thanks to all you nerds, geeks, dweebs, dorks for listening to Bad Boys of Tech. We'll catch y'all on the next episode.
The Bad Boys of Tech.